So what do you know about Finaloop? Hi, this is Patti Scharf, CPA and partner at Acuity. Today we're going to talk about Finaloop. First of all, yes, it is Finaloop. I'm not saying that wrong. I talked to the CEO at Ecommerce Fuel Live a couple months ago. You can check out that video here. And he confirmed it for me that it is Finaloop. I've been hearing for months and months that it's Finaloop. I just wanted to clear that up and hopefully help those guys out a little bit. So what is Finaloop? It is pitched as software that is a replacement for your accounting software, your bookkeeper, and inventory spreadsheets. And I think that's true-ish, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more as we get deeper into this video. But that's what they're selling out there. Now, it is really an e-commerce bookkeeping firm. And as a general rule, I don't really talk about other e-commerce bookkeeping firms because we do e-commerce bookkeeping. But I feel like this is so different in the market and everybody's talking about it that I wanted to just share my view on things. This is my personal opinion. This is not going to be a hit piece. They have some good stuff that I want to talk about, but I just wanted to tell you what I know and what my impressions are. Let's start with the good things. One of the things that I actually really love is that they are e-commerce focused. They're not trying to be all things to all people. They have their niche and they are focused in on it. So that allows them to focus on integrations with the platforms that e-commerce sellers are actually using. The next thing that they've got going for them is that their value proposition is really high. They make it really easy to enter in. Hey, just upload CSVs. It's got like an app feel, and they promote this real-time data, which I'll talk about in a second. And I think it really speaks to e-commerce founders who are used to using apps to run their business. So it feels like any other part of their business in that regard. Their app also has a nice, pretty interface. It's super clean, it's super clear, and I think this is the secret sauce for them and why this is good for e-commerce owners is because they've kind of gamified it, where business owners are encouraged to look at their numbers. They're encouraged to look at their books on a daily basis because they put the cash flow front and center. So now people are going here instead of going to their bank account, which is one of the things that all accountants have been trying to get business owners to do for so long, and they've kind of nailed that. So I think if nothing else, that they have definitely got going for them. All right, so now I've got a list of a few things that I just want you to be aware of. So the first thing is they talk about AI and real-time data and zero errors and all of that. And I mean, everything that I know about AI in the space and where we are in current state. And by the way, go check out this video I did last week on AI. It just feels very marketing buzzy to me. And I'm concerned that the hype isn't going to live up to the reality. It's one of those, if it seems too good to be true, it often is. Let's start with real time. Real-time data means that when you have an integration, so let's say Finaloop has an integration, a direct integration with Amazon or whatever kind of platform you're selling on or payment processors you're using, they have a direct integration. Well, so does like A2X, the software that we use for our systems. So the connections, so real-time just means as good as we know for now, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily correct or accurate. You don't know that until settlements happen. So for example, Amazon, they don't charge their fees until the settlement date, which is like the 10th of the following month. So at some point, they're going to have to be playing catch up. It's not truly real time. It's real time as best we know it today. And that's what a lot of e-commerce accountants are using. Also, when they say things like zero errors, and let me just say, so I watched an ad that Finaloop did where it had a woman in there who was like, my QBO, my QuickBooks Online doesn't match what it shows in Shopify. And like the implication being that that's clearly wrong. But having done e-commerce accounting for so many years, There was a good long while there that the accounting system did not match Shopify because Shopify was wrong. They were showing unfulfilled orders. They were showing just information that did not belong in QuickBooks Online. It just wasn't right. So if the goal is to get those two to match, that means the accounting might not be right. And so that just gives me pause. It could be right what they're doing. That might just be a marketing thing that they did. I don't know. But it stresses me out a little bit as an accountant. When it comes down to it, you can't just have engineers in the background making the data connect. You need to have accountants who are actually verifying the information. And I think that as Finaloop scales, they're going to run into the same problem that we all run into, which is having enough qualified accountants looking at the technology and making sure that the data that's coming in makes sense from an accounting perspective. Something else to be aware of is that Finaloop is focused on e-commerce businesses. So if you're selling in Europe or South America or somewhere else, and you've got Amazon stores in one of those places, or if you have multi-currency, that sort of thing, they may not be able to help you out. All right, so let's talk about pricing. Pricing, I think, is where they hook everybody. I mean, that's kind of how it's done with the apps and things. They start out really low, like $65 a month is what I saw, going up to like $1,000 a month for really big companies. But they were comparing this against traditional bookkeepers at an average of $2,600 a month. So as being neither Finaloop nor a traditional bookkeeper, I will tell you that $2,600 a month at our firm would typically include bill pay, payroll, controller review, maybe a CFO. It just kind of depended on the services and what your business kind of looked like. So these are all things that are not actually included with Finaloop. Finaloop, they are a bookkeeping service, and they will tell you all over the place, hey, if you want actual deep analysis, we can work with your outside CFO. So their number is not all inclusive either. It'll get you the bookkeeping. And if you were looking at just bookkeeping without any of the other services, we might not be able to match their numbers, but we might. It just kind of would depend on what you needed. So I think it's a little bit not misleading. I mean, that's what they charge. But the comparison to a traditional bookkeeper, yeah, if they aren't an e-commerce accountant, then that might be actually right, because they're going to spend a lot of time spinning their wheels because they don't know what they're doing. As far as actually replacing spreadsheets for inventory, from what I could tell from digging through their website, they rely a lot on the business owner to provide all the costs and all the other things that we would rely on our clients to do as well. So yeah, no, it's kind of give and take there. And I did see like a review where somebody was complaining about Finaloop charging an extra $300 a month because they had an extra 15 bank and credit card accounts. Well, yeah, we would do that too, because there is AI and real-time data and all that marketing buzz only takes you so far. At some point, you have to do the work. You have to be able to reconcile the accounts, and you have to be an accountant and do the actual bookkeeping. And that's just kind of what it takes. I also think that in this day and age, and as we're going forward into the AI world, it's going to be really important to have an actual person that you know their name, who's handling your accounts and doing your books and understands your business and all of that. If you've got the kind of business that you can fit into a box, Finaloop might be the way to go. But if you want somebody to help hold your hand a little bit, an e-commerce accountant is probably a better fit for you. I think when all is said and done, the biggest open question I have is whether or not they can deliver on truly accurate numbers. Because at Acuity, we offer standalone controller and CFO services. So if the bookkeeping is solid, we should be able to rely on that as well. But I'm not convinced we can yet. But maybe we can. If you've got some comments about Finaloop, if you've had a good experience, post that information down below in our thread and let us know what your experience has been. I'm really curious to hear it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, comment, and share. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you later.